is that within the entrepreneurial world, it's like it's all about like what we see in the online world. It's all about funnels and putting strategies in and the right structures and do your daily habits, and all of that's true. I'm not gonna devalue that. But when it comes back down to that belief, if we actually want to implement the structures consistently, do all those things, actually do the work that is necessary, because I've had all the structures that I needed 2 or 3 years ago, but I didn't believe that I was the entrepreneur able to do that. So I was holding myself back in many ways to actually take the right action. I was taking action, just not the right ones. And that's where now, today, it's identity work that is really undervalued in the entrepreneurial world. That who am I? Today I am the entrepreneur that earns 5 figures a month, and it's because now I've got.
Welcome to another episode of the Limitless Life Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Smith, and if you have not done so, hit that subscribe button so that you never miss another podcast. And if you love this podcast, you want some more tips and tricks on how to improve yourself, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. There are a ton of instructional videos there. You can find the links down below. However, my friend, I would like you to either go for a walk or pop a squat, because I got the one, the only, the catalyst character to work-life balance himself, Martijn Smeets.
Well, if that is not an intro, then what is, eh?
Right?
Cheers for that, man.
My pleasure, friend. So Martin, my dude, I like to get the podcast going with one, saying that I'm very grateful to have you here. I see what you have on your Instagram. It's good vibes. I believe that you have, so far, what I gather is that you have a place of abundance that's rippling out from within you. And I'm very excited to chat with you. I think it's going to be insightful. And I think that you're going to have some pretty solid knowledge bombs and some great wisdom to share. Totally biased
Cool,
opinion.
man. Cheers for the invite, and I'm just very excited to get this going because I do feel I do love terms and knowledge bombs and having some new deep conversations with people. And I've been looking into you obviously a little bit as well, and you seem like someone sharing good thoughts. So yeah, this is going to be a banging conversation. I know that for sure.
Very cool. So the question that I like to start the conversation off with is how is it, Martin, that you impact the lives of the people around you?
Hmm. In many ways, but if there's one that I would have to say, it's by giving people a feeling like they belong. Because I know in the world, there's so many people out there that just don't feel like they belong, that had difficult childhoods, that in school system, weren't a fit in so many spaces that didn't feel heard, seen, and loved. And I'm on my mission to, you know, give people that safety, to have people feel heard, seen, and loved so they can explore, be, and expand who they truly are and like their authentic self.
I freaking love that, dude. So what inspired that mission?
Well, 100% my own story, as every service provider, I believe. But throughout, like, many service providers come through big traumas, and to be honest, in the past, like, that made me feel like I didn't belong in what I was doing because I don't have any massive traumas that I went through. But when I look at my past, like, the feeling of not belonging has always been there. Many people call me an old soul. I see myself as that as well. In my age group, like, yes, I had friends, but there weren't a lot of people that I really connected with because I always felt, there was kind of a dissonance there. On my school years, I didn't have that. I was in the Boy Scouts, but there was, always like, yes, I had friends, but not truly. So then I went traveling to go and find that. I lived in spiritual, like, very primitive spiritual communities. I lived in a van. Like, I've had many life experiences, and everything kind of, when I look back at it now, not always realizing that in the moment, every choice that I've made in the past 6 to 7 years has always been to find that place to belong. And, then the more I work with people, of course, you realize like this is such a core need that people are very often missing. because we're talking about, you need to love yourself, you need to do all these things. Yes, you need to do all those things as well, but very often that unfulfilled need of belonging is stuck there and limiting ourselves to actually achieve that.
Mm, nice. I like that. Do you think uh do you think that the do you think the feeling of satisfaction where someone feels like they belong, do you think that's intrinsically motivated or extrinsically motivated?
A bit of both. Like, first of all, internally, you need to allow yourself to be 100% you, and then you need to have the people that see you as 100% you. And it's that combination of, because I can be in the most loving community in the world, but if I don't allow myself to be authentically me, then people won't see me as authentically me. So everything, as you're in the mental health mindset space, everything starts internally, but then ripples down externally. And we need to balance the two to really thrive in that space.
Totally. I totally agree with that. That resonates big time because I've been finding this year has been the most prominent where I've been most conscious of it. But the last 2 years, I've recognized a very solid trajectory. And something I've been working towards is balancing out dualities. So
Mhm.
I asked the intrinsically, extrinsically, and I imagined that there would be not one prominent, but a duality of it. And what I've been finding as I've just been making mental notes or brain dumping some journaling and stuff, or even just I have a conversation with like my older self on my desktop kind of thing too. I found that the more I've tried to embody the neutralities, the energy neutrality between the two dichotomies or dualities, like love and hate, but you practice neutrality. You can have sadness and happiness, but you can also have neutrality, and you kind of enjoy each in the middle. Have you found that there has been more addition or subtraction in figuring out your authentic self?
Has there been more? Can you ask that question again? Sorry. Has there
Yes,
been
sir.
more?
So did you have to remove thoughts or beliefs about yourself in order to find that authentic self? Or did you happen to accumulate experiences and that added to your authentic self?
Again, it's kind of it's both.
Fair.
Because
Yeah.
there's going to be part of, like, there have been limiting beliefs around myself, like when it comes to entrepreneurship, for example. Like, my parents, they love to play it safe, very traditional. Always said to me, well, as an entrepreneur, you're going to have to work really hard your life, and that safety and so on and so on. So I created that belief inside of myself that if I would be an entrepreneur, I would lose my freedom, because I would be
Mm,
stuck to what I do. And that has been a belief that held me back for a long time. That also helped me back to believe that I am an entrepreneur. Whilst if I look now at my authentic self, of course, my authentic self is much more than just being an entrepreneur. But it kind of aligns in that. But that belief was holding me back to truly let myself shine. But then on the other side of the coin, there is me also, you know, believe, like, I had to learn to believe that I'm good enough. I had to learn to believe that I am an entrepreneur. So, like, taking away one belief always means or like shifting it into another one. So, like, it can hardly be one or the other, but I've had to do lots of hard work
nice.
internally to be able to get to where I am today, for sure.
Nice. What do you found? What do you reflecting back? What do you find to be one of the more difficult obstacles or um, opponents that you had to really take on to pull out that authentic self?
It was something that if you would have asked me 5 years ago, I'd say, nah, you're nuts. Like, come on, who does that? That is so unnecessary. Like, who wouldn't? No, just no. But it's reparenting my inner child. And when you would have said to me 5 years ago, talking about my inner child, I was like, what, my inner child? My inner child is fine. My childhood was fine. But there's so many, you know, when we think, oh, I had everything that I need, then we think it's fine, but it's so much more going on there. And like for me, one of the biggest things was actually that what I explained before, because I've been a rebel my entire life. Like I'm don't know if you know the Four Tendencies, like very, very interesting book, but like it talks about how we deal with expectations. And I've always been rebellious about expectations from myself and from others that, put me in a place of wanting to travel, like obviously rebelling against any kind of structure, any kind of, authority, anything that is trying to push me in a certain direction. And so that comes with, being an entrepreneur yourself, you need structures, you need, things that you follow kind of, and it was actually that belief that I just explained. Like if I become an entrepreneur, I have to give up my freedom, like how it played out in my mind in a conversation with my inner child. My inner child was afraid that if I would take responsibility of my life and if I would take responsibility of my business, that I wouldn't have enough time to play. And that's where the inner child came in. Like my inner child just wants to play. I just want to be outside and just go and enjoy life. But then my adult self is like, yeah, but if I just take this responsibility here and focus and get my shit done, then there's going to be so much more time and resources and space to go and play after. And it's like it took a minute, like more than a minute, to actually find that core belief that was holding me back. And now, like being in sync with my inner child and being able to go in that conversation in those moments where I feel held back by that belief, it helps me to like, okay, take a breath. It's okay. Like, really, let's do some work now and go play after. I say that very often, that word play, because it sounds childish, but it helps me to directly connect with that inner child. And that's why I love that so much.
I very much resonate with that one. There was a reflection question that popped up, and I thought it was really cool, and it was having to do specifically with getting into the flow state. So how to utilize the flow state where you have struggle, release, flow state, recovery. So you have that cyclicalness. I would actually, I actually put into my own mind where it's responsibility, struggle. So responsibility, without responsibility, we cannot get into the flow state. So when I hear your inner child, it's like it's bringing those aspects in where uh well, the flow state helps with the kiddo, but I'm going to go back to my original point because I don't want to tangent on it hard. But I asked my mom the other day, and I knew she was going to call me after this one, but I asked my mom, what is it that I would do without a second thought automatically when I was a child? And the question was to encourage an idea of, I find that we're work, work, work really often, and we're just a part of the hamster wheel where it's just move, move, create, create, build, build, build. But we've definitely removed ourselves or have decreased the degree of play that we actually take part in. And so asking that question to my mom and her talking about it, walking was one of the things, drawing was another thing, uh, and going out and climbing and stuff was another thing as well. And it's interesting because I've incorporated or have been more mindful of my recovery time and then interacting it where I'm thinking of it as an opportunity to like hang out with my little Kyle, right? And I envision him being like 8, 9 years old, little Kyle. And then that's the time where I find myself in that state of playful flow, not just working flow. And there's been some freaking crazy breakthroughs from that. It's like the time it would take me to figure out a similar kind of cognitive problem is decreased because I think, like, to what you mentioned, having that child, having that inner child work with you rather than tantrum against you makes the process of any progress in any endeavor so much simpler, so much simpler.
Exactly, 100%. Like it's, is what you say, working together instead of, against each other, that alignment, because that's something I'm all about, like aligning every part of you towards your mission that you're working with. And that means you're your inner child, your current self, your future self, like every single part of it. And then again, you know, you come into that part of you start internally with doing all of those things, and then externally go and do it in the world. Because what you said a little bit with the recovery part, like I've envisioned it for myself that I kind of have two barrels, and they're connected, you know, and they always one fills up the other. But once the other one's empty, like I can't fill the empty one up without filling up, you know, the fun one, the play one, you know. When I see play and work, I need to play to be able to fill up the work one, and the other way around. And that's where, you know, I live in Austria. I'm a very like I'm a snowboard addict, and where in the past I used to be, oh no, I need to work. Now I'm like, no, I need to go snowboarding because I know once I come back, I have so much inspiration. I'm ready to go because I have my play. And yeah, like for me, that visualization of those two barrels, that's what really helped me click in that sense.
That's cool. I'm definitely going to take that and I'm going to put it in my back pocket. And I'm
Yeah.
totally going to give you credit where credit is due. But I like that. That's absolutely. I have a I have a similar kind of mental framework or vision where you think of your heart as a heart bucket, and rather than expecting love or aiming for love or depending on love from the external, you're also filling up your heart bucket full of love for yourself. And then as it overflows, other people get that have that
Mhm.
overflow. I think, oh man, buckets are obviously the
Yeah.
way to go. Clearly.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, it's
awesome.
very funny that you say that actually, because when I was what we were talking about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and I just started to get into all of this stuff. The first thing I started to work around and like get my knowledge around was self-love. And I really started to see a little bit that what you explained, that I'm just going to fill myself up with so much love that I'm just going to radiate it out of me, and people are going to, you know, like a little virus that goes around, and I'm just going to, you know, like negativity does with other people as well. Yeah. And that's how I used my self-love. And I really noticed that as well with the people around me, that they became more positive and became more happy. And you just become, you know, you have that pull around you because you just exude so much of that positivity. So yeah, it's all about those small visualizations. They help so much in actually creating it. So like whatever you want in your life, find something that you can visualize to create that and do that on a regular basis, and it automatically comes true.
Absolutely. That's cool. So, damn. Okay, this is going to be a good little tie-in for a couple of things. How does acceptance tie into clarity of purpose?
Oh, acceptance is such a broad word. So if I can just give my own interpretation to it, tying a little bit into what we've been talking about, you know, it's acceptance of who you truly are. Now, because when it comes to purpose, I believe, well, I've actually written a post about it not too long
Mm,
ago. I truly believe that like I can tell everyone this is your purpose, not in detail, but the rough outline,
mm,
because it's our purpose to make the world a better place, to help other human beings. Because when I look at it, like going back to primal times, it was our purpose to reproduce. It was that simple. Now, of course, you know, those things are a given, surviving and reproducing, like not for everyone, but like for definitely the world that we live in, the Western world, it's a given.
mm,
So when you then think a little bit further, okay, well, that's why depression, you know, why am I here? Well, if we look back, the world isn't perfect. It will never be perfect, but we can always try and make it better. And because if we make the world better, the kids we produce will have a better life. They will have a better chance of survival. They will
mm,
ultimately do better. So that's why I believe if we really go back down to the core, the only thing that we are here to do is to make the world a better place for the next generation so they can survive and reproduce more. So, but to find that purpose of how we want to help people, first you need to help ourselves, because you're never truly like authentically going to be able to give yourself to other people if you haven't given that part to you. And you
mm.
can only do that once you start truly accepting who you are. And then I'm not talking about I am a mental health trainer and a snowboarder and a this and a that. No, I am at the core, like, first of all, I'm love. That's at the bottom. And then I'm a very adventurous human being, and I am very extroverted, and I love talking to people. But I also know that I can also sometimes go overboard with these things, and I can be very stubborn in my ways. And then the rebel part of me that I really have to work hard on to not put me in a negative spiral. And it's accepting every part of me and looking at every part of me and then being able to pass that onwards. And that's where I see accepting me will help me fulfill my purpose in the long run. But I need to start there.
Nice. And then I found that oftentimes the mess becomes the message, where like you mentioned earlier, and I completely agree with most service-based coaches or mentors or guides, or are trying to teach others that have been in a similar state of being, but have, for another like imagery, pulled themselves out of the fog. Like they pulled themselves out of the fog on the mountain. Now that they're at the peak and they're able to see the horizon. And then in that horizon, they're able to see the people that are still in the fog. But then we went back down. Now I'm just kind of flowing with this one because I think it's kind of cool. But then we flow back down with a rope so that we know how to guide our way. And then we pick people up along the way. Some people think that, or believe that they're on the correct path and eventually they'll get up there, but it could be more difficult. But then you have other times where someone no longer wants to do it by themselves and they've accepted a couple things along the way. And then eventually, I forget how it goes, but that mentor will make them, when the student is ready for the mentor will show themselves, something along those lines. And then I guess the coach would come down with this rope saying like, hey, I actually got the rope to get up to the top of the mountain. It's a beautiful horizon. There's sunset. Do you want to go check it out? It's a little bit easier. Gary over there didn't want to go for it, but you want to go for it? I think that's yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. It's good vibes. Uh with
Yeah.
with wanting to create more love and spread more love and give more love to yourself so that there was more love to give, of course. Uh how has love impacted your creativity in the way that you experience life? How is it that you
Mm.
view life as a whole?
That's such a big question. Um, how has love impacted how I view the world? Well, kind of all starts with, again, like I bring it back down to me seeing me for who I am and accepting every part of who I am and learning to love every part of who I am and learning to work with that, because then I really start to do things for me, the things that I really love with the intention of loving myself would add so much more purpose and power to that. And because I start to do that, life becomes the glasses that I look at the world at become a lot more colorful because my internal world is a lot more colorful. So whatever I look at in the world, like the rope, the mountain, the challenge, even the fog becomes like a mystical fog that I really enjoy walking in,
Mm,
because I can't say that I'm always clear and everything, like not a chance. No matter which stage of life you're in, you go through challenges. Your challenges just change and you learn to get better at going through challenges. And like with that point of love, like you just start to see things in a more beautiful way. Like for example, in a difficult conversation where in the past I might have gotten angry at myself, at someone, at something, whatever, like at Nina, my dog, for example, when she's pulling on the leash too much or whatever. And I truly look at that from a place of love. It's like if and sometimes I do ask myself the question, if me and that person or me and that thing truly love each other, how would we then deal with that situation? And all of a sudden, all the heaviness just drops and it becomes really, okay, how can we move through this in the best possible, most loving way.
Mm. I
And
like
subconsciously, we often want that, but asking the conscious question then really brings up a different train of thought.
totally. I like that. I like the reflection of if it was a different circumstance and if it was both loving individuals, how would that same scenario pivot? I think that's cool because then you're looking from a frame of or a perception of uh compassion rather than judgment. And then that way it's a lot easier to, well, it creates the space for both individuals or whatever kind of the circumstance is to not be closed down and defensive. If both folks are, or if folks are just compassionate rather than judgmental, because you can't be both at the same time. You can only be one or the other. If you're experiencing compassion, then you cannot be judgmental because you're coming from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. Yeah. And then that'll create a lot more low and slow breathing rather than high and tight. Mm, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good, man.
And there then as well, the little visualization where we had, what did we have so far? With the barrels before here as well, like definitely when you come to arguments in couples or in friendships, whatever it may be, with a random stranger, there is a problem, but the problem isn't the problem. The problem is that you both want to win,
Mm,
and you wanting to win means someone else having to lose. So you're standing in front of each other. You're not trying to solve the problem. You're just trying to win. And if you like, in relationship therapy, this is a fairly common exercise. Like if you have a table and instead of sitting both on other sides of the table and fighting with each other, go and sit at the same side of the table and look at the problem. What is the problem there? What happened in that situation that caused this energy? Like, to not call it positive or negative, this uncomfortable, undesired situation, and how can we then solve that instead of, no, I was right, I did this, you did that. No, it doesn't even matter. The only thing that matters is how can we get out there, and we can only
mm,
get to that point if we start to look at the problem and not at each other. So
mm. Yeah, I felt that one in the heartstrings. That's a good one. Uh, you help folks with some pretty heavy stuff. How is it that or what insights do you have in creating space for other people to share their like things that they don't want to address or they're resistant to address? What's that process or what's that interaction? How do you care for them and how do you care for yourself?
thing comes back down to what I said at the very beginning, and it's just making someone feel heard and seen, and making myself feel heard and seen, and knowing that in that moment I'm there for them, I'm not there for me. So I'm like, zoning myself out. And I do believe like it's a skill that you have, or like it's difficult to train. And I do feel like this is something I've had my whole life. People easily open up to me. And there, I do believe it plays a role that I never had any massive traumas. Like emotionally, I'm pretty stable,
Mm,
and people feel that as well. Like I'm not triggered very easily. I always keep my calm, and people are never going to go into their deep stuff straight away. They're going to talk about small stuff. And if they feel non-judged and they feel heard and seen through every part of it, that's when the other stuff comes easier. But then, of course, also, well, asking questions. And instead of going through the front door, asking a few questions to go through the back door.
mm,
Uh, you know, so it's a step-by-step process that nobody comes in on the first day and just throws it all out there. No, it has happened actually, but it's not a common thing.
yeah, I would imagine those 1 out of 100 that just comes in with a bucket and it's just like, whoa, all right. I appreciate the openness. Yeah.
Yeah, but to be honest, in that moment, that person, the only thing, and that's you have to realize that need, the only thing that person is looking for is to be heard. It doesn't want advice or anything in that moment, doesn't want to be coached. It just wants to have someone in front of him or her that truly sees and hears the person without trying to give their own opinion of how to solve it. No, Just hear that person and they will automatically open up.
Mm, I like that. If there was someone who really struggled, let's say it was and it's just hypothetical. I'm just curious about what your perception would be. But let's say it was not the case where you didn't have the emotional stability, or you did go through a whole bunch of shenanigans and it did have an impact on when, yeah, knowing what you know now, and let's say you were coaching like yourself just in the opposite kind of scenario, how would you inspire, how would you go through that process of training the skill to create that space for people to be heard? Hmm.
I think the first step is asking permission before you do anything.
Mm,
Always asking permission. Would you like some advice on that, or would you like, like sometimes before you go into conversation, definitely if it's the first conversation, like, what do you want out of this conversation? Do you just want me to listen, or do you actually want me to give my opinion, my advice, ask you questions, dig deeper? And if someone shares something randomly, like ask that question, is it okay if I ask a little bit deeper? Like everything is around that permission. And because
mm,
people open up when they feel safe. It again comes back down to that safety, feeling heard and seen. And if you ask permission of someone, that person feels like, oh wow, he's actually thinking about my needs, not just about theirs. He's actually thinking about what I feel instead of just trying to push his or her opinion on me. They start to feel like it's about them. And that is like the first and foremost important thing. And that starts with asking permission and not just unsolicited advice.
mm. Uh, could be a deep question. I'll go with it. Where is an area that you're resistant to, that you're not granting yourself permission to pursue
In my coaching, you mean? Or
in yourself? Either or. It's open-ended. It was just a question that popped up, and I'm like, that's an interesting one.
yeah. What is the part of myself that I'm resisting? I think like I'll just throw the first answer out that comes out with it. And it's the very deep traumas in other people.
Mm,
Like I help people with deep stuff, but I'm not a psychologist. I help people deal with whatever they're dealing with in this current moment to focus on their future goal, on people have different goals when it's that feeling of belonging, whether it's having a stronger mindset, whether it's feeling worthy. Um, but when someone comes up to me and asks me, I've been beaten and raped when I was a kid, and I still like I'm depressed and all of this and all of that, then I will be the person like, okay, like I'm here for you to listen. I will listen, but this is not my field of expertise, and I will happily move them on to someone else that I know that does that kind of work. So that's where I feel resistant for sure.
that's totally fair. Yeah, I think you got good reasons. Yeah, that's a good reason to be resistant for sure. Huh. Have you ever thought of, or have you ever wanted to pursue? Have you wanted to dive that deep into helping people, or do you feel that you are helping people to the best of your ability from here, and then as it help impact people in the future?
I'm helping them to the best of my abilities today. I actually just not too long ago I made a plan. I made my North Star, like the coach that I'm working with, how he called it, the North Star that I'm working with. And I want to help people, that don't feel in place, that don't feel like they belong, that don't feel worthy, that don't feel enough to achieve their dreams, that are stuck in the life that they're in and they actually want more, to be able to have I like I don't know how to get there yet because I'm not there yet. So like this is where I'm going, but to have that person to create a whole journey for that person to get to the point of having an extremely thriving, successful business with a strong community surrounding them. And right now, I've done like where I'm at now is I've helped people deal with not feeling enough, feeling worthy, feel like they belong. I've helped dozens of people with that, and like that is a very much my comfort zone. Now I'm stepping a little bit more into, okay, many people that I work with, because that's obviously what I am, are entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs. So now I'm stepping a little bit more into that journey of, okay, how to specifically help entrepreneurs in taking that next step and actually opening up, starting up the business so that's how we'll grow. But yeah, I definitely feel right now if I am doing the best I can.
That's awesome. That's good. I really like that quite a bit. What have you found to be? I have a lot of what if have you found to be questions, hey? uh, but the transition from working with general populations to more specifically entrepreneurs, have you found there to be more common denominators that you can revisit, or have you recognized that in like people that you've chatted with?
But to be honest, from the very, very start, when I look back at it now, obviously I didn't know then all the people that I've been working with were aspiring entrepreneurs. Not all of them, but most of them. So it kind of aligned already. It's just now I've gotten clear on it. And the common denominators are just like very often the not feeling worthy, not feeling enough. And trying to prove something to themselves, to their parents that they can actually do it. But those reasons are not going to help you in the long run, because as long as you don't feel enough, if you want to create a business, if a successful business, if you want to be earning 5 or 6 figures a month, you need to believe that you are that person that does that, that is able to do that, that deserves that. And if you don't believe that you're enough to own a business, you're never going to believe that you're enough to, earn 5 or 6 figures a month.
Mhm.
And that is always a common, the thing, the belief of who you are as a person.
Mhm. It's interesting how, or it's interesting the ambition that most, I would imagine pretty much all entrepreneurs, like anyone that's going to start their own business, has some degree of ambition within them. But I, that resonates very much is you have to believe in becoming the person it takes to get what you want. And it's interesting that little dichotomy of ambition and lack of worthiness, or that feeling of unworthiness. It's like, I know I can slay it. I know I can crush it. I know I can change some lives. I know I can be like a contribution to the human race. And it's like, but I'm not worthy. That's an interesting little dichotomy. What do you have any thoughts on that? You just brought it to my attention. I'm like, that's neat.
I believe people want to give the world what they didn't have very often, or want to give themselves or their children, and that's
Yeah.
what they start thinking about. But because they didn't have it, or, generational traumas, they don't always believe that they're worthy of achieving that. And so there's a very big connection between the two, because I see lots of entrepreneurs that actually want to change things are very often because they didn't have all the things. So they want to change the things that they wanted, and they want to create that for, well, first off themselves, but then, they see the bigger picture. We see like entrepreneurship is a part of, it's something in you, like being able to take the risks and stuff. But it's very often linked to that for sure.
Mm, that's neat. This is good. You're connecting a couple neural pathways in my mind, friend. It's pretty good. I love
Mm.
it. That's sweet.
Actually, if I may, because
Yeah.
there was another thought that I had before that I lost that just popped back in my mind, is that within the entrepreneurial world, it's like it's all about like what we see in the online world. It's all about funnels and putting strategies in and the right structures and do your daily habits, and all of that is true. I'm not gonna devalue that. But when it comes back down to that belief, if we actually want to implement the structures consistently, do all those things, actually do the work that is necessary, because I've had all the structures that I needed 2 or 3 years ago, but I didn't believe that I was the entrepreneur able to do that. So I was holding myself back in many ways to actually take the right action. I was taking action, just not the right ones. And that's where now today it's identity work that is really undervalued in the entrepreneurial world. That who am I? Today I am the entrepreneur that earns 5 figures a month. And it's because now I got to the point of believing that. I'm not there yet, but I know I will be there soon because now I have that belief. And when I look back 2 years ago, I was like, ooh, earning 2,000 euros a month through my business. Ooh, I don't know. Is that going to be possible for me? But with that mindset, we're never going to get there. And now we'll scream it off a freaking roof. I am an entrepreneur that earns 5 figures a month, and I'm freaking proud of it, you know? And once I get there, then it'll be multiple 5 figures and it'll be 6 figures. But every step you need to do that identity work to be able to actually achieve that. Because without that, your strategies are, no, I don't want to say worthless because they're never worthless. But, again, has to go together.
Totally. I'm definitely going to pocket identity work. That's it's actually interesting. It's interesting hearing you say it. It makes sense now that you said it, but like if you think of it like a principle, like there's breath work, work out, identity work. They're all things that can be developed and changed up. Mm, I'm adopting your philosophy right there.
Boom.
Yeah.
Inspired someone.
There you go. At least one person. And then hopefully whoever's listening to this is going to be like, wow, that was actually pretty good. Maybe I could do some identity work. Yeah.
Exactly.
Ah, that's really cool. I like that. I like that. So with the identity work and the translation of beliefs, did you just have a process of it? You wrote it down, you became clear on it, and then magically your whole being was so much more in alignment with with the pursuit of the outcome?
If it was that easy, then everyone would be doing it. Shamefully enough, it's not. But it's yeah, it's obviously process. But it's starting about, like, for me, it started, what life do I actually want?
Mm,
What do I truly want? Do I want a life where I just come home to my kids and have a 9 to 5 job where I don't have to stress about, like, because the 9 to 5 jobs for entrepreneurs, obviously, they're the worst thing in the world. But for my parents, for example, they liked them because they have that safety. They know, well, how much money they're going to have coming in. They know what's coming out. They know that everything is going to be okay. For me, I couldn't think of anything worse. And it's acknowledging that and then think about, what life do you want? Well, I know what life I want in great detail. And I've worked around figuring out how much money do I actually need for that. And then, okay, well, if I need that, then I know what I'm going to have to earn every month. And and then it's like starting to do the identity work in a sense of, okay, the entrepreneur, or yeah, for me, the mental health trainer that I want to be able to earn that, I have to do these and these and these and these things. In, like, for me, for example, and again, there's I love strategies, but there isn't one shoe fits all. Like, I am a very different person than you are, and we need to find the strategies and structures that work for us individually. For me, I'm very much of a morning person, so I'll happily get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I smash out 2 hours of work, then I take my dog out on a walk, and then I go out and play for a little bit, and then I come back and do more stuff.
mm,
Like, for someone else, 5 o'clock in the morning seems horrible. For me, that's my natural wake up time. But and then it's being aware, okay, those are the things I have to do. And then where does a belief come in? Well, a belief, first you have to believe in the potential that it's possible. Then you have to start taking action on that potential. And once you see proof of the action, that's where your beliefs start shifting. And then you need to repeat that pattern very often to start believing that.
mm.
So for me, I've been working around, okay, what do I actually need to do to earn that? I've repeated that cycle of actually doing that, that right now I can stand there and say, I am that fucking entrepreneur that does it.
And then
But
it's
that
just
has been a journey.
oh, yeah, that's for sure. I like that. And then you just collect the information, indicate like it's proving to our mind that may not believe it that we are capable of doing it by behaving it. And then as a side effect, we develop belief. Nice. Nice, dude. Man, you got some good vibes, bro. I like talking to you. Just saying.
Yeah, likewise, likewise.
This is very cool. So, mm, so with this journey of self-actualization that you've been pursuing either consciously or unconsciously, I would imagine consciously, because you got like a real depth of thought. Where where do you see yourself like 10 years from now? Like what is that bigger
Mm.
vision? Because you have that you were talking about how detailed you have that vision of like how much it would be for the whole year of all the things that you want to do and then what that would be per month and then working it back. What is the vision past that point? Is there one where you're like, whoa, that's like just so crazy, but I think I could do it?
Yeah, like I, I don't know if it's 10 years, 50 years. I don't know when I'm gonna realize it, but I know I will one day. And it's like it's pretty massive. And I know, obviously I won't be able to do it alone. But it all comes back down to again what I said at the beginning, the purpose of having people feel like they belong.
Mm,
And like I really see myself on the mission of having people step out of the individualistic life that we are living these days and go back to like communal living. And I don't mean literally living together, although I fully support that as well, but emotionally and mentally living together again, like the true supporting each other, not just my world, to really see and hear other people when they're trying to say something. And to be able to do that, and again, like I said, long run, I want to have a worldwide retreat brand as well. Mental health retreats, but like much more than mental health retreats, literally also go on a holiday together. It doesn't always have to be work. I just want to have that community where those things are available. And then so once I have that, like in the process of that, I want to connect with locals because I love supporting local communities as well, and not just come in there as an international thing and build something where like to have multiple homes around the world with a big plot of land and a garden and some animals and then like some different houses for some local people that are living there that are taking care of the land. They're actually like the main responsible people. And
mm.
then in there would be community space to hold retreats for people to, like work, workations for entrepreneurs, where they come together for a month and do some
Oh,
work together, all of that kind of stuff, like everything. The thing for me is I have many good ideas, but I find it very important to once that community's built and I have my trusted people working with me to give the control away as well, because
mm.
my mind isn't as great as 30 other people, and I'd be a fool if I'd think that for myself. So as long as I'm trying to control people, they're not going to be able to fully realize their crazy ideas that they have. And if I let them be, then they will go out there and do things that for me are unimaginable.
Mm.
So that's a really big vision, having multiple homes around the world, connecting local communities with people from everywhere around the world,
I like
feeling
that.
home.
Yeah. Dude, that's beautiful. As you were saying it, I was just envisioning it just like flowing. Like, okay, yeah, I'm seeing the trajectory. I see how this timeline goes. That's cool, man. I dig it. Yeah. I think big visions are awesome. Are awesome to have.
Hmm.
Thank you very much for sharing yours. I appreciate it a ton. Uh, we're heading up to the top of the hour. I got two final questions for you, but I got one question beforehand. Is there anything that has to be said that hasn't been said yet?
I really enjoy how, obviously the very open-ended question that makes me think what hasn't there been said. For me, when to share that very briefly, because I still think it's one of the most powerful things. when we talk about identity work, changing our mindset, loving ourselves, like whatever, it does not matter what you want to create, whether it's in the materialistic external world or the internal world, you have to go through a process. Just like when I learned snowboarding, uh, when I was doing something on my board and it wasn't going well, it's very difficult. So then first you have to learn, okay, this specific thing isn't going well. You have to become aware of what you were doing wrong. You have to take responsibility for what you're doing wrong. Then you have to become aware of what you can do to change it. And these are the things that people are still very good at, but then so many people get stuck on that next part. It's actually called the 4 stages of learning, like subconscious incompetence, where you have no idea what's wrong, conscious incompetence, where you know what's wrong, uh, and then you come into the conscious competence, where you're going to have to practice. You're going to have to do that same thing so often. It's going to be so difficult. And I love to look at it as a big field of long, tall grass, what is really annoying to walk through. And you've been walking on that same path for years and years and years. So you're naturally going to walk in there. And all of a sudden, you're trying to practice to think in a different way, to do something different, to feel in a different way. So it's going to feel like tracking it through cornfields, or it's going to be annoying, and you don't want to turn back, and you have bugs crawling all over you, and your whole internal body is saying, no, don't do this, go back. But you have to make the conscious choice. I'm going to push through here, and I'm going to do it again and again and again and again and again until there's a new path there. And that's when it's truly sinking down in the subconscious. That's when you're truly becoming that new person. And then the old path will slowly overgrow again.
Mm.
I like what I'm just trying to say. You have to consciously take action to be able to make something the new normal. You can't do the same actions to create different results.
Mm. Well, that was good. That actually hit quite a couple spots as well. So thank you for that share. I'm glad I asked that question. I'm glad that you shared that answer. That is awesome, dude. So going into the final two questions, setting the scene. It's at the end of your days. Uh, you're on your deathbed. You're surrounded by all the people you've you've guided to giving themselves permission to pursue their visions. You're surrounded by your loved ones. What is one piece of advice you want to pass on before you kick the bucket?
Feel the fear and do it anyway. Like I've I dove deep into anxiety and fear, what it means on a neurological level, and what is happening internally and a psychological level, and trying to connect the dots for myself. And man, fear is so ridiculous, and we should all laugh about it a little bit more. And like the something that really yeah, gave me a little aha moment. Now I understand it all. Was starting to see fear as an overprotective parent, because in the end, fear is just trying to keep you safe. Like it's actually a good thing for you. It's nothing bad. But because in the world where we live in today, we are 99% of the time safe, definitely the Western world. So we're going to create all these fears. What is an acronym again? False evidence appearing real. Yeah. And what I've started doing, like I've had the luck of having a bigger brother who was, much stronger than me. So I had to do the stupid, ridiculous stuff to make myself feel seen and heard. That was how I did it as a kid. But it made me have a good relationship with fear. So, I got a lot of good stuff out of it. Now looking back on it, seeing that fear is the overprotective parent. Well, what does a kid do when, imagine you want to go out on a bike and your mum screams, "Put your helmet on." Well, I'll do it instantly, a high toned voice, "Put your helmet on, come on." Make it funny, make it ridiculous. And all of a sudden, that value of the fear becomes so much less because you're realizing you're exaggerating in your own mind.
That's good.
And it's those small, yeah.
Oh, if you want to tangent more on it, dude, that's
Uh,
awesome share. That's
just
so
want to
good.
say it's the small things that really help. But yeah, cheers. Cheers for asking the question.
Nice. That's fun. When I really like that. I'm gonna adopt that too. Nice. Very nice. Sweet. So the final question, the best version of Martin is sitting next to you right now, however you envision that. What piece of advice does he have for you during this season of your life?
Don't get distracted. I'm I've never been tested, so that's why I don't speak it out loud, but I do truly believe I have ADHD. Like as a kid, like when I asked my parents a year ago is when I started looking into it, like, yeah, we just never wanted to put you in a box, so that's why we never had you tested. What I appreciate, like, I have to commend them for it.
Mhm.
But when I look at my life now and people that have ADHD, I talk with them about it. So, I get distracted easy. And definitely, I live in a ski town in Austria. So there's lots of people here their life is turning around snowboarding, skiing, and having a beer or doobie afterwards, just chilling and having fun. And I want to grow and expand my business whilst
Mm.
doing that. So don't get distracted. Like you have a very big mission on this planet and take your time for snowboarding. Yes, go out and play. Let the inner child out and let it play. Let it do all the things you need, but don't get distracted from the mission.
Nice. Well, he's got some pretty damn good advice, bro. That's awesome. Well, folks, that is what I've got for you in today's episode, jam-packed with knowledge bombs. Where can people find you, Martin?
Mainly Facebook actually, but like Martijn Smeets. Yeah, my name is spelled a little bit weird in a Flemish way, but I hope that you can find a link in the down below. So
Absolutely.
Facebook or my website in my community, the Thrive Tribe, what is a virtual co-working space for entrepreneurs. Absolutely love it. You're welcome
That's
there as well, Carl. Would love to welcome you in there.
sweet. Yeah, I've eyeballed it. It's like gameplay. It's almost like Pokemon from the looks of it.
Exactly, exactly. It's a gamified virtual, like a gamified co-working space. Absolutely love it.
That's so cool. Well, folks, if you love today's episode, please do me a favor right now. Take a screenshot, share it on your Instagram stories, and tag me with my handle at Dapper Dude Kyle. I also got yours here too, along with at underscore Martin, Martijn dot Smeets, Smeets. That is one of the ways that we grow. And until next time, folks, keep up the kindness, and I hope your day treats you as good as you look.